So to get started, I'm glad to asking two questions to the audience. The first one is, who owns the smartphone in the room? Way! The second one is a bit more tricky question. Who can look at me in the eyes and tell me without blinking that they are always using their smartphone in an extremely smart way? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll talk after. Let's see. You have to teach me. Yes, what we're going to do today is a two-part presentation. First, we're going to look at how we are using smartphone on a daily basis and try to extend that to rural areas in developing countries. And based on this, ask ourselves questions. In a second part, I propose you to travel with me to Georgia, which is the country I'm coming from, and we'll look at a specific project led by BFC, where the connectivity of farmers played a key role. And we'll see how this connectivity impacted the way we led the project. So if you don't mind, we'll get started. The first case I propose you is very close to me because it's my own case. It's the case of a commuter living in the main capital of a developed country, Georgia. When I'm commuting back home, I took this habit with my wife to exchange this type of SMS. These are extremely simple messages aiming at knowing if there is something to be bought on the way back home. Why these SMS are valuable for me? I'm living in BFC, which is quite a hilly city, and my house is located quite high on the hill. Meaning if there is something to be bought in the shop in the evening, it takes me around 20 minutes to go down, go purchase something, and come back up. So concretely, through this type of SMS, I can save around 20 minutes of time to be spent with my wife and my daughter. So we have a situation where very simple tech allows to save time and eventually to create value. Please note that there is absolutely no value in the technology. The technology is intrinsic to the wife or to the daughter when she behaves well. So overall, we have a situation where the technology and connectivity is actually an enhancer of the value intrinsic to the wife and the daughter. Please note that the technology has nothing to do with the presence of the wife and the daughter. This is the first thing. My second case is quite different. That's the one of a commuter in urban areas. Like many of you, I installed some smart application on my smartphone. And I swear that I would be using them intensively. For example, I have this Georgian application to rehearse my vocabulary. Georgian language is extremely interesting language. That's the only language where mama is papa and deda is mama. And that's really strange when you see a little boy running after a very big guy with a beard saying, mama, mama. Anyway, so this said, so sometimes I'm using my smart application when I'm in the bus, but sometimes I spend on less valuable content. I can spend a lot of time on it. And eventually, this action is time expensive, creates no value, and distracts from important things. I forget to send the SMS to my wife. I come, she's not happy. I have to go back out to buy the carrots, and I'm spending less time with my family. So we have a situation where over-connectivity is actually an obstacle to value-creating action through the destructive power of connectivity. Now, I propose you to travel to regions which are a bit more of interest for us and meet with Sironka, the Masai with a smartphone. Probably many of you already met Sironka because he's basically in every single presentation about digital in Africa. What is Sironka doing with his smartphone? First, he can go on marketplaces. He has access to these very good marketplaces where he can find the best deals to purchase or sell head of cattle. He has access to other type of places where he can find the best deals for his agriculture inputs. He can as well purchase what he needs for his household at a better price. So overall, the use of smartphone for Sironka means better deals, increase of his income, and overall an improvement in his livelihood. So definitely here, technology and connectivity is an enhancer of the existing value in the business and activity and know-how of Sironka. My last case is the case of Sironka, the Masai with a smartphone. Sironka got the visit of some very smart consultant like me a few weeks ago. They showed him this marketplace where he will have the opportunity to find the best deals to purchase and sell head of cattle. Sironka was really convinced and impressed. So he went back home, spoke with his wife, and was able to convince her to purchase the smartphone. So they took a second M-Shwari loan and eventually purchased the smartphone. Sironka started practicing using the smartphone. He connected on the marketplace introduced by consultant. After he bit, he found out that actually there were not enough users of the marketplace in his area so that it really makes sense for him to use it. There was little good deals to do. So he stopped going on the marketplace. But he did not stop using the smartphone. He started going on other type of website, spending a lot of time on it when he's on the field, but as well when he's back home and his wife is waiting for him. Recently, one of his good friends introduced him as well this very good gambling application, which is very interesting for him and he spends a lot of time. So concretely, we have a situation where the use of connectivity here creates no value, distracts from what matters, and eventually has no impact, if not negative impact, on the livelihood of the person. So a situation where over-connectivity is actually an obstacle to value-creating actions. I would admit that my example may sound a bit biased, but what I try to say is that there is always a connectivity trade-off between the concrete rational benefits of connectivity, which can be estimated in time value, efficiency gain, and all this type of thing, and everything else. All the distractive content and the capacity which smartphone has to distract us from what is important and what is creating value. So this is the theory. Practically, how does this impact the way to manage technology projects? For me, there are two main rules which I try to use. The first one is never assume that people will do smart things with smartphone, because in most cases, it's not happening. And the second one, which is an extension of the first one to any type of system, you should never assume that people will use your system. If you want them to use, you should put them in a situation where they will not have choice but to use your system. So now, I propose you to travel to Georgia. First, a few reminders about Georgia. So Georgia is a country of around 5 million people of South Caucasus. It's a former USSR country which has two important specificities. First, half of the population lives in the main city, Tbilisi, and the other part lives in smaller cities and a lot still in rural areas. It's a country which has the specificity of having a lot of smallholders farmers, because people are still very attached to their land and they don't sell their land much. So a lot of smallholder farmers. And on the other hand, interesting characteristic is that it's a country where the financial sector is extremely developed, probably a lot abnormally developed compared to the rest of the industry, and the financial institutions are already serving the farmers really actively. The project itself, we were in partnership with one of the leading microfinance institutions there, and it was a donor-supported project to support farmers thanks to technology. The initial concept of what we wanted to do was the following. We were planning to build an e-commerce for farmers. Concretely, it will be a website where the products to be used by farmers are posted, coming from a partnership with input suppliers, and the farmers would be connecting, selecting the inputs they need, and then place orders, either purchasing directly or using the loan facility coming from the financial institution. This was the initial concept. Then we started gathering figures about the situation in the country and the connectivity of farmers. We found out that around 50% of farmers actually owned a smartphone and had access to internet, which is quite a good ratio. This said, applying rule number one, we wondered how many of this 50% can we really expect to connect on the platform and perform some transactions to purchase inputs really online. And there was a big question mark on this. The second question mark we had is what power we had as a financial institution to really market a digital product in front of farmers. Bring it and try to get a maximum of farmers actually connect on the platform and use the tool, applying rule number two. So we decided to pivot a bit the initial concept and go for a situation where we would use the tool as a channel for loan officers of the financial institution to disburse loans. So concretely what it means. We did a system which was optimized for tablet first. We spent a lot of effort in the integration of the system with existing scoring system of the MFI. And eventually, the tool was used as a channel to disburse what they call fast input loans. Concretely, loan officers going on the field, meeting the different farmers, and placing orders for agro inputs. A few key figures giving the results of the project. 3 equal 5 in our case. So 3 plus 3 is concretely the time we spent to develop the whole system. 3 months, it was the time needed for the development of the whole e-commerce part. So from the very beginning till the end with the loan processing inside, and 3 months was the time for integration only, making sure that this e-commerce is communicating properly with the scoring system of the financial institution. So it gives you a bit the balance of effort between building the technology itself and making it talk with external systems. And more, building the system becomes easier, and making it talk with external system becomes really the name of the game. And 5, it's what we achieved. So it was a maximum number of minutes to get a loan decision on orders placed through the platform. So the results of the tool after 5 months were quite positive. Over 2,000 loans were disbursed, over 200,000 USD of loans, 50 loan officers were using in 17 branches. So overall, we had a positive impact on the tool, and it got practically useful to reach better the farmers. What can we conclude of this project? The first main conclusion is asking ourselves, where is the value in what we've done? The value is not in the technology. The technology we developed was, we can say, extremely simple. It was an e-commerce with a bit of loan processing capability. E-commerce, you can download some for free online now. You can really log in and create your e-commerce. Where was the value of our project? It was in the infrastructure which was already in place. Concretely, the team and outreach of the financial institution, who already had the people serving the farmers. Then the existing partnership with input suppliers, which were ready to post the products on the platform. And last, in existing technology system and technology teams of the partner, the scoring system and the capacity of the IT to make the scoring talk with our e-commerce. First point. Second point is that there are 2 ways to see this pivoting. As I explained before, we can see it as a shift from a marketplace approach to a channel approach. That's the first way. But we can simply see it as a smart first step for building a marketplace. When you want to build a marketplace, there is only one question to ask, is how will you get people use the marketplace and make it live? If you don't have sufficient users, it will die. Like 95% of the marketplace started online. So as a financial institution, having this ambition to start a marketplace, it really makes sense to think of who will be your early users. And getting your own team members being the first users of the marketplace is quite a smart thing to do. So this, you can really see this approach as the smart and logical first step to building a marketplace. You start with people who don't have choice but to use your system, and then you expect a natural evolution. Farmers will see that they can actually place orders themselves. They will do it with the loan officers first, but then can take the initiative of using it on their own. And eventually, what we had done was a lot less risky if we had tried to market directly a product in front of farmers. Because there is this all unknown about how digitalized are the farmers, how ready would they be to use the application. So we did a project a lot safer, which brought already value, but could be the first step to something a bit more digital oriented, trying to reach directly farmers. So coming back to the main question, are apps for farmers enough? You understood that, yeah, the point of view I tried to say is, I would say rather not. What I think is that application, this kind of smart apps, are really something coming from what happens in a lot of urban areas. There is this whole thing about disruption. Disrupting is trendy. Everybody wants to disrupt their market. And the smart applications are the kind of way with the tools which we think will allow this disruption. But I tend to think that when we speak about rural areas in developing countries, it's just not the most efficient approach. There are some people on the field who are already providing services to farmers. They are already bringing some impact. It's perhaps not optimal impact, but they are already there, they know the context, and they deliver some services. So I believe an approach more of building on is usually actually a lot easier, and when you look at big figures, a lot more efficient than trying to disrupt anytime you are launching a new initiative. So this is the general conclusion of my presentation. Now I want just a small epilogue on this. I went back a week ago on the platform of our client, and I found the following concretely. So the scope of products sold on the e-commerce of the client just exploded. I mean, now they are selling everything from technology, living room, kitchen. So it was very strange for me to see grapes fertilizers between Hoover and frying pan, and the nuts between the drones, and I started just thinking, how good will this be for impact on farmers? Can it be a way actually to sustain the tool while keeping on an impact on the farmers, or is there a risk of mission drift? And I will not answer this question. I will let you think about it. Thank you.